So I don't know if you recall the last time we met, but the point of this meeting has been shifted a little bit so we can focus on planning for the next milestone. So it's been, I think we're about 2 weeks in, and we've been adding issue items and whatnot to the template or to the planning issue, which I will share. So many buttons now. There you go. It's the green one. So this is our team planning issue. And this is where we try to capture everything that we expect UX to be working on for 14.2. So what we'd like to do today is go through this list, make sure it captures everything that we're expecting, that we all understand what everything means, and that we can assign designers to anything that has the 100%, which refers to a need as opposed to a nice to have. So let's start off with composition analysis. Nicole, last thing you mentioned in the comment below, I think, was that these are things that are with work in progress. I know last milestone, or current milestone, I guess, 14.1, Camellia took this one on. Last I saw it was experiencing something blocking it.
It's more complicated than that. We have a design that was never verified by non-team member humanoids. And so we do need to make changes to put the data somewhere, but how much data and what data, we're just throwing darts at the wall. So I got Cam to work with me to come up with she made awesome mocks, and I came up with some question tweaks. So we're gonna basically ask people, what data is it actually that you care to see? And then this way we have a target for MVC of, can I get away with storing 1 or 2 pieces of data, or do I have to store a whole flipping dependency path for MVC?
That's the research issue that she just launched this morning, I think she said. Okay, cool. What's happening with this one?
So until dependency path is done,
okay,
we can't redo the maturity scorecard, but my hope is that we can just literally take the exact same test we did before. If dependency path, depending how much it changes the screen, we may need to alter one of the images, but we should just be able to re-release the same questions again with a new image once dependency path finishes.
Okay, so the expectation is that the research will help solidify this feature. Once that's done, then we hope that we could get this one done for 14.2.
Well, if that finishes in 14.3, I would assume we'd want to do that one 14.4. So like whatever build. That one,
okay.
Yeah, whatever that one finishes +1, and then we just have people be like, does this solve your problem now? Okay. And if it does, then I'm complete. If it doesn't, then I got to figure out what's missing.
So basically, there's not a lot needed for you beyond the research that's going on right now yet. Okay, cool. Container security is, I should probably have checked to see who's on the call. Okay, good. Annabelle's here. Anything going on with these? This look all good. Any questions about anything, Annabelle, Sam?
Nope, no questions.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing for me.
These are good numbers as far as you can tell. Should also point out that in lieu of the org change, it's supposed to be 100% effective on 14.3, that we need to consider 14.2 as our transitional milestone, where anyone that's going to be trading places with anyone else, they need to be working together during 14.2 to make sure everything's caught up to speed. So Camellia is essentially going to be moving over here. So it might make sense that this is sort of an Annabelle / Camellia, where Annabelle, you're the DRI, but Camellia is paying attention and watching and that sort of thing. So when you're thinking about how much weight and capacity for the person that's collaborating or watching, that might be more like a 1 or a 2 that you might want to consider adding on, or subtracting, I should say, from your overall capacity. So we can probably make those updates afterwards, but I just want everyone to be cognizant of that while we're going through this. Dynamic analysis. So the same thing would be for this, where this would be / Michael, for instance. Any questions on this one for either of you on these two? I know this is a flex or nice to have, but it's like, Michael, you think you can handle it?
Yep, I should be able to handle that.
The
CMS,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry, the CMS has been dragged through a few milestones. If it might not happen next milestone. If it happens this milestone, we're just waiting on the testing environment. I've been meaning to reach out to Derek on that, but if it takes longer, then I'm guessing it will be purely up to Michael, and if it gets pushed again.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe we can spend some time just getting him up to speed on this one. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, we could move forward with the CI/CD pipeline scans. Those are ready. It's really just the validation for the on-demand scans that is not completely set up. So we'll just, I talked to Seth about it. It just hasn't been set up yet. They're low capacity right now in engineering, because we just had Aviel move off to verify.
Yeah, it's a complicated setup, and that's unfortunate because I feel like we can't do the CMS until we have everything. I don't want to just test one section of it. So I think it's worth waiting until it's all ready.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Especially if there's overlap, because it would be difficult to do it sort of piecemeal. All right, well, in the meantime, let's at least get Michael caught up in case he needs to take it over entirely.
Yep.
For
Yeah, and Annabelle's done a good job keeping me in the loop on this. It's
Okay.
pretty much been in holding pattern for a little while now. So for the most part, I'm caught up, but we'll probably touch base again if we do decide that I'm going to take it over fully.
Okay, that works. We'll probably come back to this depending on what we see below to see if anyone wants to put their name on it. But I was going to say this has issue coming or issue to come. Who's going to be writing that?
So I think that I wrote up the issue. I told Michael that I would find it, and I have not yet. So I either need to write a new one or find that issue. I'm pretty sure I wrote it, but
Okay,
I can't find it now.
cool. Moving on to fuzz. Let's see. Yeah, we got 2 needs and 2 nice to haves.
That last nice to have is a duplicate of the one in the best section too, just so you know.
Right, and going forward, we might want to just put all of this under dynamic analysis. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that splitting it out, since it will be Michael that's working on both of them, and I mean, they're technically going to be sharing some areas like this on-demand thing. I'm not sure if we need fuzz being separated out since they're both within dynamic analysis.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense for the next planning, which would be for 14.3, which is when everything is supposed to essentially merge.
Yeah.
So I'll take a note to update the template for next time. Good call. Which is also an interesting point, because technically Michael will also be taking over SAST, even though that's going to be a different PM. Maybe there's a way to create a unified table, but we can still segregate it. I don't know, I'll think about it. Similar idea though. I just don't know what's possible with Markdown. All right, Camelia, are you all good? Are you on the call? Jeez.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the research. I hope I can finish like the problem validation research this milestone, but the recruiting doesn't go as fast as expected. So the research might sleep. So I wouldn't do those two designs at all. So I will just continue with the research. So that's a possibility.
Okay. Is there any plan for the next step, or will we talk about the build or design and then build in 14.3? Is that the expectation? Dear Camelia?
I don't think we plan them for build. It's just all design, and then it probably will like stay as ready for design that can be picked up in the future and have capacity.
Yeah, we won't have engineering capacity to do this for a few releases, likely. And we might have front end capacity, but we definitely will not have back end capacity.
Okay. Any approximate milestone for build? Only because in a way it helps if we know that. So each of these columns kind of feed back on themselves, so we can be able to prioritize anyone else's needs. So if this turns out that it's not going to be ready for build for 4 milestones, then it's a need, but it's not maybe a need for 14.2, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Like I was thinking it's 100% needed because of research. Like if they don't have the design after the research, after a few milestones, I kind of thinking we need to do the research again maybe. So this is kind of follow up based on the research result. We do some design. Yeah,
Right.
like.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that it's really a need to have the research done more than it is to get the design done. We need to know what users want, and then as soon as the research is done, we can start on the design, which will probably take a milestone or 2, and then we can, by that point, we might be ready to build. I don't know.
So okay, it's one of those situations. I get it. Cool. Blank. I don't think Becca is on the call. No. Taylor, any thoughts on what's going on with this?
In general, we shouldn't have any major UX needs. Becca should be wrapping up the code quality study this release, so I don't think there's anything major here.
Okay. Fair enough. And Matt's not on the call, but I'm guessing he's probably in a similar situation. Then after that, let's see. So I think we still need to add the MR work, because it's important to point out that the framework for the MR updates should be done relatively soon, which means the expectation is on us to take that framework, translate our designs to utilize it, or our widgets to utilize it, which means that we then need to figure out a plan for the next quarter, which will be the build phase. And my understanding is that there will be product and engineering OKRs that will support the construction or the development of those updates. So that can't happen if we're not at least planning for the designs to take place. I know Becca's been pretty deep on this, working with Pedro and his team, so I don't think it's a surprise, but I'll just make sure to add this in. Another thing that we just need to be aware of is something that will take up time for designers. All right, well, that is pretty much everything. Are there any other open questions about any issues or anything that anyone else talk about?
I mean, I think we need to start figuring out now what we're going to do once it's all of us PMs rock, paper, scissoring it out for what gets worked on next, since, you know, the amount of available time is drastically going to change in like 14.3. So we may want to start figuring out how we want to change the planning issue so that we're all throwing things in and then figuring out where the overlap is and being able to sort everything in a reasonable fashion. Because I don't think being able to sort it by PM anymore is going to make sense.
Well, I mean, Michael's loyalty is to Dast first, since that's where he started. So, yeah, I agree.
So
I totally agree.
Yeah, my sort of general thinking with starting even this process was that each designer would be DRI to their relational PM, but after that, the lines should blur. And in line with what you're saying, Nicole, that we should be prepared to be flexible, I guess. And that's what I was hoping this would sort of help us do, you know, like that's what I was mentioning with Derek, is each of these columns, we should be able to use the data that's inside of them and be like, okay, you know, this is a priority 1 for dynamic analysis, but how does that measure up against a priority 1 for container security? You know, and maybe Derek will come back and say, well, we're not going to be able to build this for 4 milestones anyway. So that means to me, it's actually a lower priority to get it designed in the milestone we're planning. And then maybe Sam will say, yeah, well, we need to get this built in 14.4. Well, I guess 14.3 since it's 14.2 planning. So therefore it's a higher priority. And that's how we can start to sort of balance that discussion. I'm sure that you all can think of more nuance than that, because that almost seems a little too simplified, but that's my thinking of at least getting that conversation started and how we can go about it. I also wanted to do a retro after we did finish this planning, just so we can start to talk about what's working, what's not working, what can we maybe change and make it better, that sort of thing. So ultimately, I guess we could have this discussion in that retro. Plus, we'll have the added benefit that Andy will be back in 17 days, I guess. So he can help too. But at a sort of general level, does that help at all, Nicole? Hopefully.
I mean, maybe, but not really. Because like right now we're planning, I've been trying to, like, if you look at mine, I'm talking about like the next 3 to 4 releases. And I sort of think that's where we need to be going, because yeah, for example, SPDX export, let's say it was a need instead of something I could pull out of my butt. If I needed that in 14.4, we may need to do some research for that, for example, now in order to be able to design for it then. So it may not be urgent to get the design done, but it may be urgent to like start putting out a survey or something. So I think we may just need to alter the way we're thinking of things so we can domino things up and then maybe identify any overlap, because I'm hoping once I get some of this package hunter stuff out, I'll actually be able to switch over to borrowing a lot of stuff that Derek has done and Taylor has done, and possibly working with Sam on some of that, what we call it, MR approval stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to start borrowing sooner once we get those done. But I think just being able to look slightly further out so we can, as we're discussing them, like you said, sorry, table saws, you know, just being able to say, well, this is, you know, not a priority 1 right now, but maybe we should make sure an hour or 2 of putting a survey together happens so that in a release or 2, we have the data to make decisions.
Yeah, my thought was that, not to tell you how to do your job, of course, but UX tries to get at least, we like to say we want to be at least 2 milestones ahead. Really, it should be 3. That's really difficult for a lot of PMs to plan that far out, because I think I've rarely seen that happen, that we get that far out. But if each of you were to have a prioritized backlog that went as far out as you possibly could, that might help that conversation, because then you could work with each other initially, maybe, to discuss some of this potential overlap. And then when you get with the designers, they can help you determine what type of research a idea might need. And then we can start to prioritize those and get them in. It's really squishy though, like I don't know how to solidify that stuff to make it happen. Like technically the way that I wrote up this process is that the first 2 weeks, those types of discussions could happen. And then we get to this meeting where we should be prepared to just sort of walk through and then maybe solidify whatever was talked about. That whole, really, I need this done. This is a higher priority one than your priority one, that kind of thing. But I don't want to get too prescriptive, I guess, on how everyone should work. But that was my sort of general thinking with these first 2 weeks of milestone planning.
I think we all plan, and then OKRs and other things come in, and then just kick our Legos over.
Yeah, I mean, that's everyone's complaint, right? All the department level, other GitLab-y stuff that we need to do that we forgot about. That's why I'm hoping that the more we do this, the more being aware of this stuff, we added this table, being aware of this table, I really hope that will come into play. And I think that during that 2 weeks of discussion, the designers will hopefully remember these types of things that we have them working on, so they can bring it up during your all discussions. But that's the thing, it's a lot of pulling out from what's in the back of your mind to bring it up in the discussion so everyone can be aware of it. Maybe it's we're already planning a month ahead for the future milestone, but maybe it needs to start sooner. Maybe the last week of a milestone.
I don't think it necessarily needs to start sooner. I just think that it would be nice if, emergencies happened less regularly.
Yes, of course. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? What I try to tell everyone else is to, like, if your capacity is 20 to 22, hold some of that back, which is why we think of the flex thing. Just pretend that it's going to happen. Not pretend, because it is going to happen. Just, you don't know what it is. So hold it back. And I don't know what else to do after that, except, Semper Gumby, always be flexible. But, like I said, I'm going to create a retro when this one's done, and we can continue the discussion. Anything else anyone wants to talk about? I guess technically we're at time. All right, cool. Well, thank you all for coming. I apologize for the meeting thing. I was hoping to give us a little more time if we needed it, but turns out we didn't. So it worked out in the end. But thanks for dealing with my meeting flip-flops. All right, everyone. Thank you. Talk to you later.